Well, hello from North Carolina. Today we're coming to you from Welcome, right here at Richard Childress Racing Museum. This shop right here behind us is now a museum, but it used to be the original race shop for Dale Earnhardt before they turned it into a museum. So what we're getting ready to go in and see today used to be a working race shop. Y'all stay tuned and hope y'all enjoyed this video. This is what it looks like as you get ready to walk into the front door. The hours of operation are Tuesday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. and then Saturday from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. Last museum ticket is sold 1 hour prior to closing. As you walk inside, this is what it looks like. First thing you see is a gift shop area. There's an old Monte Carlo car. Let's take a quick walk around and look at the gift shop. T-shirts and hats.
So far this season, of course, the way it started out on the quarter-mile racetrack at the LA Coliseum, a different really part of the country, a part of the country where there's a lot of eyes on it, and again, it just no matter what happens, I'm a little bit concerned.
One of these cars still on.
You know, some guys that maybe it's not going to fare very well because you're going up against people that race these cars all the time. Now, granted, it is a new race car, but some of the people that have come from the open wheel disciplines haven't fared all that well. Juan Pablo was able to win, but not as much as we thought he was going to win. Rosie's dominant. So no matter what happens, though, it opens up that group of people that would not have watched otherwise, and for them to have the eyes on the sport, anytime you get that can be a really thing. Look at the effect of Jimmy Johnson's had on any car.
Yeah, look, it's not even close now compared to the way it used to be. Not even close, Jeff. I'm telling you, once again, we had guys getting out of an ultra-modern super machine, getting into an anti-press car, right?
All kind of memories here.
Let me be a little bit more clear here. Don't want to say anti-press car. It was a modern race car, but it was built on antique principles, right? I wouldn't change this car in 30, 40, 50, 60 years. We still have the oldest technology. We were coming to the racetrack with great race cars. But some of the things that the other guys were doing, we couldn't do that. Well, no way we could do it. Now, with this new car, we've got a modern race car, and then we've got guys coming into this sport that have been driving modern equipment, and they're using a little bit of this technology. So, the 600 week at Charlotte a little bit different. And like I said, I've been around this for a long time, and some of you have not. And the sport's changed dramatically over the years because if you want to go look at 20, 30, 40 years ago,
NASCAR Salutes, together with Coca-Cola and Charlotte, Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern on Fox. NASCAR.
Only one sale away from the Shopify 1000 Club.
Is that a thing?
Wow, have a cookie.
I'll take one.
This gas can right here is signed by Chocolate Myers, who was a gas man for Dale Earnhardt.
You should.
You can see his signature right there.
Let's set you up on Shopify. It's easy. Guys. Okay, as long Number one.
Here are the prices to get into the museum. Adults are $10, seniors 55 and up is $8, students 7 to 18, $5, and children 6 and under free. On this sign right here, it says that the car we're looking at right behind the sign was from 1986 and 1987 season. The primary sponsorship was from Wrangler Jeans. RCR earned 16 victories and 47 top 10 finishes in those 2 seasons, including 11 in 1987, the team's first full season in this building that we're in right now. All right, we're getting ready to enter the museum. Welcome to RCR Museum. You walk in, and there's a trophy with Richard Childress and Mr. France. This is NASCAR Award of Excellence, presented to Richard Childress in 1985. Are you ready to check your place out, Mark?
Yep, this is the start of the RCR tour here. The actual floor that you see here and all the cars here is part of the original shop. And the other side of it there, part of it started to get expanded when they expanded to a 2-car team when they took Mike Skinner, Winston Cup Racing, and number 31. So a lot of additions have been added since then, but this is the original piece that started out.
I can remember we came here about when you were Ace's age right there. You and I got some pictures somewhere if I could find them. I would love to try to add some of those in the video. Behind this door was the break room area. There's a picture showing what it looked like. Right here was the crew chief's office behind this door.
He retired. Oh, really? Yeah, he's coming.
This right here was the original engine shop from 1987 through the 1999 season. As you walk in, you see a lot of the Earnhardt cars on display. I know some of these were actually ran in the Winston races, won't them all?
Yeah, a lot of these that are shown here were from the Winston All-Star race held at Charlotte Motor Speedway. Also, part of that All-Star weekend is also the Pit Crew Championship. That wasn't always part of the All-Star race. That was held down at Rockingham and was an award that was given out to the pit crew that was able to pull off the fastest pit stop with the least amount of errors in it. Back in the day, his pit crew was called the Flying Aces.
In 85, 86, and 87, they were the Unocal World Pit Crew Champions. The Junkyard Dogs. Right behind this door was the head engine builder's room. This was a photograph of what it looked like. Right here is Richard Childress' original office. You walk down the hallway to go to it. You see different photographs of Richard Childress and Dale Earnhardt together. If you look straight ahead, this was the office that belonged to Richard Childress. Richard was an avid hunter, still is. You can see various animals that he has killed over his hunting career. They're on display inside his office.
So this here is basically a copy of the last contract that was between Dale Earnhardt before his death, Richard Childress Racing, and GM Goodwrench. This was signed and put in agreement and never executed due to the death at the Daytona 500 of Dale Earnhardt.
And right here you can see Earnhardt's signature on it. And this was Richard Childress' signature. And the representative from General Motors. Here's a shot of an engine.
So here you see the car referenced as Quicksilver. This car here was brought out for the 1995 All-Star, and it was to honor Winston's 25th year, in celebration of their 25th year into their sponsorship of NASCAR. This car also signifies probably the original alternate paint scheme that was introduced during the season. Not a lot of teams switch paint schemes, but this one was the first one and kind of brought up the new tradition of the next cars that you're going to see of bringing a special paint scheme out for that race. Today, we get the special paint schemes that are throwbacks to old cars at Darlington, which honors a lot of the history and tradition. This car is probably the first one that started a lot of the throwback schemes.
And this is a very pretty car.
Yes.
Its nickname is Quicksilver.
And back here on the trunk it says, "Thanks for 25 years of Winston Cup racing." Has the Winston Cup logo on the left side over here.
Well, after 1995 comes 1996, and a promotion with GM Goodwrench. They ran this patriotic car here that looks like the American flag, which honored the Olympics, the actual 100th Olympics, the Summer Games in Atlanta. So they ran this car here to honor that. One of the most pretty cars, in my opinion, that Earnhardt drove in his career.
And I like it because it representing America. It's got the red, white, and blue. A very patriotic car. The sign right here says the Winston 1987 champion. I can remember that. That was the year that Dale made the famous pass in the grass at the Charlotte Motor Speedway, passing Bill Elliott to win the Winston. Right here you see the Wheaties car. What you want to tell us about the Wheaties car, Mark?
Well, again, this was also another one in 1997 at the All-Star race, was another special promotion between Goodwrench, GM, to hook up with Wheaties. And as far as I know, this was the first time any NASCAR star had really been branded on any type of food item that you could find at mass marketed supermarkets or anything like that. As you can see here, the copy of one of the boxes and the picture on the back shows the exact box that was on the aisle. Matter of fact, I believe I ate a couple boxes of Wheaties back then, and I probably have still the boxes in existence today, probably in my collection.
If you have them, you better hang on to them, because I'm sure that they are very valuable. Any Earnhardt fan would love to get a hold of those.
Behind us here is the Tasmanian Devil car. And as you can notice on top, there's a neon orange 3 on it. Back in the day, they used to have these Winston No Bull $1 million. If you win a certain number of races or qualify and win the race, you would win an extra $1 million. This was a spinoff of the original crown jewel of winning three of the 4 crown jewels, you would win $1 million. Bill Elliott is the only driver to win the original $1 million of winning 3 of the 4 crown jewels. This car here was actually ran at Talladega. So the 2 cars that we're going to see in this shot here is actually very historic because this is the first time NASCAR went to Japan. They actually went to the Suzuka circuit, which is a road course, and they have several other formations over there, but NASCAR went as an expedition race for 2 years in a row. The car behind me is the AC Delco car, which Dale Earnhardt ran the AC Delco car here. Most time he was in the black, silver, and red Goodwrench car, but this one here was the one that they used for that expedition race. The other car over here is the year 2 of it, which this car is the Coca-Cola car, and a lot of people may remember this was the year that Dale Jr. joined him in the expedition race. Jr. was driving the number 1, which was a black Coca-Cola car that had the polar bear on the hood of it, and Earnhardt drove the number 3 original Coca-Cola car, which I'm not sure on that, but I believe that might be the first time in a NASCAR sanctioned event that Dale Earnhardt and Dale Earnhardt Jr. actually shared the track together. Another interesting fact about this car here is back in the day, they used to have specific track cars, whether it be a super speedway drafting car, whether it be an intermediate road course car or a short track car. This car here, as I mentioned earlier, was the one that was used in the 1996 exhibition race at Suzuka on the road course. But earlier in the year, this is the exact car that Dale Earnhardt won the pole with at Watkins Glen International Raceway about 2 weeks after suffering a broken collarbone getting caught up in a wreck in Talladega, which he gritted this out, and most drivers at the time wouldn't allow an injury to keep them out of the race car. But this car here is obviously painted up in Suzuka, but this is the famous car for the Watkins Glen pole. This one here is the gold 1998 All-Star Race car. This car did not last very long on the track. It is presented here, but under the lights, this was a very pretty car. The shining off of the gold was very pretty. Matter of fact, if my memory serves me right, about 9 laps into the All-Star race, it was wadded up, getting caught up. The All-Star race was the one where you held your foot to the floor and it wasn't a lot of lifting and a lot of accidents happened. This was the one weekend a year that no cares were given. It was just all out hard as you can go. So behind us here, you see another All-Star car that came out with a special scheme. This one here also presented with a collaboration back to one of Dale's original sponsors, Wrangler Jeans, and as you can see it here is the number 3. Dale Earnhardt Jr. would later on in an Xfinity race a car that was very similar to this, other than Dale Jr. being in the Xfinity series, which it's called now. He did run the number 3 in his days, but after his days of graduating to the Cup and graduating to the number 8 Budweiser and so on down his career, he only ran the 3 car one more time, and that one time was actually in a scheme just like this, and was the only time that Dale Jr. ran a race for Richard Childress Racing. So this car here signifies probably the last time that we got a special scheme. The year 2000, of course, the death of Dale Earnhardt is closing in on it, but this is, in my opinion, the best car that Earnhardt ever drove. It is very colorful. Some people call it wild. It is my favorite scheme that he did run. This car was designed by Peter Max, and if you notice any of Peter Max's art, it has a very similar theme to it. What's also very interesting to it is Peter Max actually has this car instead of Sam Bass. Another interesting fact to this car here is this is the car that Kevin Harvick would eventually drive in the Winston a year later And actually, this car was wrecked on lap one. As a matter of fact, before they just had taken the green flag, and everyone watered them up in turn one because it started to rain, which also makes history as precedented as an all-star race. NASCAR allowing teams to pull out backups after the green flag is dropped to restart the race after the track was dry and everybody got the car set and ready to go to get it on. Carried on some of the tradition of sponsorships and collaborations together. One was Oreo, which was a Nabisco branded product that was a sponsor of RCR. Dale Earnhardt drove this car here in the Budweiser shootout, which he was leading in this and was passed late in the race by Tony Stewart. In the floor, you can see the scales and the weights here. The cars that you see behind you are set up, as I had mentioned earlier, around having certain types of cars. The cars would be set up here and they would just be put on jack stands where they would make the adjustments and put different setups in them for the track they're going to. These cars are very sensitive to the heat or the coolness that could be in the air, but also they react differently to the heat that's in the asphalt, concrete, and also the dirt now that they race on. Dale Earnhardt in the Winston Cup level never raced on dirt in the prime days of his career, but as you can see as they're laid out here, they would have been set up in the shop like this with the car in the center here. More than likely the car that was going next to the racetrack, they were preparing for the final setup to put in it, and it would be wheeled back out of this door here, to which we'll see later on where it'd be wheeled out and loaded into the transporter and taken to the next track. So this car right here, as you can see, the orange bar going across the top of it is a wicker, and also earlier we talked around the orange significance and the valence around the orange here on that meant that Dale was part of the Winston No Bull 5 event. This car here is very significant that he did win the $1 million prize for that. And many will say that it might be one of his most impressive victories. 2000 Winston 500 at Talladega Super Speedway. He was 15th on the race's final restart on lap 174. It slipped back to 23rd and moved up to only 18th by lap 183 of the 188 lap race. He went from 16th to 8th on lap 85, then to 4th on lap 186 before taking the lead on the next to last lap with help from Kenny Wallace and Joe Nemechek. The victory was by a margin of 0.119 seconds. Very, very slim margin of victory. It was Earnhardt's record 10th at Talladega Super Speedway and the 76th and final NASCAR Winston Cup victory of his career. The car was used at a preseason test at Daytona International Speedway in 2001, but was never raced again.
So this car right here, folks, is the car that Dale won his last race in.
I know as a fan of Dale Earnhardt, I always look forward to each year when they hit Daytona to see what paint scheme Dale was going to have. We knew it was going to be black, but each year with the body changes and stuff like that, we either had some combination of a thicker gray line or the red Dayglow Chevrolet orange that was at the bottom of it. But one year, I believe it was 1998, that it could have maybe been 1999, Dale actually switched it over and started with a GM Goodwrench Plus sign car. They called it the Sign, and he drove that on the hood. I believe that type of scheme on the hood was only for 1 year, but also gave us something a little bit different in that promotion. This tire here is from the 1990 Daytona 500. Later on in the tour, we'll see the 1998 Daytona 500 winning car, but this tire here is what was punctured in turn 3 on the last lap when Dale was leading the race and was passed by Derek Coate to win the Daytona 500.
He came close a lot of times, but it was always something that kept him from winning.
Something else that's unique to these cars, these are big, heavy stock cars, and they don't handle very well at slow speeds. Matter of fact, once you get them up to speed, they handle a whole lot better. But the mechanics of them, they're very heavy, very hard to drive, and they're on slick tires. You can see the slick tire that's here, and it has no tread on it. The one beside it actually has tread. NASCAR went to work in trying to develop a tire to operate during the races when it was raining. NASCAR has never ran the rain tire on a track other than a road course. They have tested around to try to make some rain tires for some short tracks where they're not up to high speed. But that there is a rain tire with a tread on it. And another unique invention that you may not see a lot on the race cars, but when the rain tire is available, you'll see a windshield wiper that's installed there, and that's also a part that's mandated by NASCAR for wet weather conditions. That is part of the advancement in the technology, but also advancements in trying to keep the boys racing when there's inclement weather. Obese in your car here. Who doesn't want to sit behind the world's famous black number 3? I feel faster just sitting in here. All right, the other parts of the car here, you can look down in here and see there's padding here. These pieces were here because drivers would be shifted around if there was a wreck. You can imagine in a violent wreck, traveling 180, 200 miles an hour, you'd be thrown around. But to see the thin sheet metal that's on the outside is protected by this roll cage that's in here. A lot of this is built and welded together. Each chassis is presented to NASCAR, and it's actually given a serial number and is approved by NASCAR whether they can go on the track. A lot of times the roll cages, if they're damaged, they have to start over and build new ones. Part of the other advancements, this piece you see here is actually called the Earnhardt bar. This was designed after 1 year of a wreck at Talladega. Flipping over another car, the nose of the car had came in and was very close to encroaching the driver's cockpit here. So that bar was put in for support to keep the car back out of the way. As you can see, very tight confines built around. Reason for that, they want a cockpit to keep the driver safe in case of an accident. So during the 40th Daytona 500, Dale Earnhardt, after 20 years of heartbreak in trying to win the Daytona 500, finally wins the Daytona 500. You just knew that day was his day. He had a strong car, but Dale always had a strong car at Daytona, racking up over 30 wins at Daytona alone, but only has one Daytona 500. The car that you see in front of you is the original car that was brought back from the Daytona USA experience. When you win the Daytona 500, they get to keep your car for 1 year. This car being in original condition, you can see some of the markings and stuff on the car as far as the indexing and the painting of the wheel studs, so the pit crew knows how to index the wheel to hit the lug nuts. Lug nuts back in this time, pit stops, hitting all 5 lugs at this time. Pit stop was around 13, 14 seconds. They were getting it done. As I mentioned earlier about the GM Goodwrench sign, this year, Dale Earnhardt drove the Plus hood on it for the GM Service Plus car. Also, I mentioned earlier about Dale Earnhardt's seat. As you can see over in here, you can see that laid back, low down seat that's in there. Victory Lane champagne that was sprayed around. A lot of the roses and stuff that was in Victory Lane. A lot of today's NASCAR fans, you'll see pictures, and you can see them on the wall here, that we're almost 24 years later after it. You see Dale with his wife Teresa. Also in the picture, you see Austin Dillon, Richard Childress, Taylor Nicole, and Ty Dillon in the picture, and of course Ty's and Austin's dad there holding Ty in the picture there. So a lot of people see that floated around, that those kids now are actually grown up, and they're actually, Austin's driving the 3 car, and Ty is driving the 42 car for Petty GMS now, so it's kind of, both of them are in NASCAR royalty cars.
And there's a shot right here of Larry McReynolds. He was the crew chief for Dale when he won the 1998 Daytona 500.
So also unique to the 1998 Daytona 500 is a penny. And if you look closely, right there on the dashboard, under the middle gauge right there, you see the penny that's glued to the dashboard. Down on the floor here, you see the young child that Dale Earnhardt met. The young child gave Dale that penny, and that penny was glued on the dashboard, which at the end of the Daytona 500 resulted in his first career Daytona 500. So you can imagine after coming back from a race car, some tracks very dirty. Something like Darlington, the car has a lot of marbles on it, which marbles are pieces of the tire after they get hot. They fuse together, come off, and a lot of times you'll see them, and we'll try to show it later on. You'll see some of those rubber tires go up and they leave rubber prints on the paint scheme or up under the car. If you notice when they slow down under caution and riding in the in-car camera, you hear the clinking and clunking of sand, gravel, other marbles from the tires coming up hitting the car. This area here, they would bring the cars in and wash them down, keep them very clean so they could go back and work on, because one of the things is cost effectiveness. So if you clean them up before you bring them in, your pit uniforms, you don't have to buy a lot of those, or the working uniforms for the guys that are working, you don't have to buy them if the cars are missing the grease and stuff like that.
Right here we have the transporter. This is what would be taking the car to each racetrack each and every week. Inside, everything is kept nice and neat. They have designated spots for all the tools, shocks, anything that you may need. They would have it inside. Also, up above, this is where the race cars would be stored at. Most time it'd be 2 cars in one of these trailers. In case you wreck one, they have a backup. They'd be prepared and ready to go.
After Dale's death, this transporter was rolled back in, and this transporter is now set up as part of the shop tour here in the transporter bay. Inside, you'll see how the truck was set up, the exact time in Daytona and brought back home. There's a video over here too that will show the truck being pulled back in after that unfortunate day.
This is what it looks like as you walk inside of the car hauler. Notice the uniforms are kept here on the right side. They have microwaves, refrigerators, coffee pots. They kept plenty of food. Also, they'd have the satellite TV hooked up so they could watch the race on TV as it was happening, just so they could keep up in the pits to see what was going on. Right over here is where all the radio equipment was stored at. That's how they would communicate. The spotter would communicate to Dale, tell him if there was a wreck somewhere. They would keep him posted on his lap speed, lap times, let him know how other cars were doing. Right here were products like oil, brake cleaner, power steering fluid, glass cleaner. All that would be stored in here. Here's a welder in case they needed to weld something. They'd have it ready to go. Then right up here, was where they would keep the springs, shocks, and anything else that may be needed. The tools and stuff would be stored in these drawers. And then right up here is where they would store the engines at. As you notice, they're on a little stand with wheels. As needed, they would just roll it out and take it off the trailer. Everything they need would be right in here, this trailer stored. These steps right here would lead up to the private area where Dale was sitting, waiting for the race to start, or during a red flag like a rain delay or something. They would come back, hang out in the side of here, take it easy. Of course, that section is locked. Up here, you can see where the car is stored above us. Like I said earlier, there would be 2 cars stored in this trailer. One would be a backup. This area right here is designated for the research and development area.
This room here didn't have any windows and was strictly off limits because this is where they made the cars go fast. And as far as Chevrolet, they didn't know what want Ford or the other GM cars or even Dodge to keep up with what they were doing. And they also, you see the different designs of the cars. This is where they found their aero advantages, and everything was top secret.
Right here we have the fabrication shop. This is what the roll cage of the car will look like without any sheet metal around it. It gives you a better idea how it looks.
This is a whole chassis assembly. A lot of the parts and pieces were welded, made directly in-house. You can see the metal and stuff over there on the racks where they were cut, welded together and made. Today's standards, you see a lot of machines that cut out the parts and pieces to the exact measurements. A lot of the tools you see here is rolling sheet metal or cutting them and welding them together. Definitely a whole lot harder back in the day to put a chassis together and also be able to make the sheet metal get that roll correctly, get it formed, and get it to NASCAR specifications, which was a common template to keep each car very close to the same speed and aerodynamic performance so that it was fair across the board for each manufacturer. Well, this is a new part of the shop, and this starts basically the new era. This is the era after Dale Earnhardt, and we'll see some stuff through here that we'll talk around and pass through on it. After Dale's death, this is actually the car here. After the death, the biggest thing was no longer wanted to see the 3 on the track, and they didn't want it black, so we got the red 29 and the white scheme here that Kevin Harvick was promoted out of the Busch Series at the time to take over after Dale's death. This car you see here is Mike Dillon's, which is Richard Childress' son-in-law, and Mike is the father of Austin and Ty Dillon that currently have history here at Richard Childress. Mike is currently a spotter for one of the RCR drivers now. Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s Oreo car here that he won the Daytona race in 2002 with.
This is the car that he actually won the Busch Series opener at Daytona in 2002.
Is Mike Skinner in the Lowe's. Mike was Dale's teammate, even though he probably didn't want a teammate, but that was part of Dale's time here. It was Mike Skinner being his teammate. More of Clint Boyer's time here.
Ricky Rudd drove the Piedmont car for Richard Childress. Here is a check stub where Ricky Rudd won first place at Riverside International Raceway back on June the 9th, 1983. And the prize he won was $1,000. Also, he got a separate check for first place gasoline bonus award for $500. The payoffs sure have come a long way.
This car here represents some stuff here is Kevin Harvick actually driving for Shell Pennzoil. It's autographed inside of the bow tie there. But I mentioned the sand and the cars getting beat up and stuff like that. You see the marbles and the dirtiness of this car after it comes from Victory Lane. This is the Daytona 500 car that he beat Mark Martin back to the line with, just narrowly not giving Mark a chance at winning his only Daytona 500. Also symbolized here is where they changed to the number 29. The car always carried a small 3 right beside the 29 to symbol that it was Dale's car. So this car here is pretty significant. This car here, you can see the burnout tires down on the ground, is from the victory at the historic Indianapolis Motor Speedway. No, it's not the Indy 500 that you see the Indy cars on, but when NASCAR takes to the Indy track, this is what you get. And also the brick here, where winning at Indianapolis, all the drivers go out, the team members go out and kiss the bricks.
And right here in this picture, you see them after winning, they all kissing the bricks.
What you see here is Tyler Reddick's second Xfinity Championship car. What's unique about this one is Tyler Reddick actually drove for Junior Motorsports and won the championship the year before moving over to Richard Childress and repeating as the Xfinity champion. You can also see his helmet and his driver's uniform, which is RCR's 50th anniversary. Undoubtedly, Richard Childress has enjoyed success with multiple drivers across the Xfinity level.
Right up here, you see the car where Austin Dillon won the Daytona 500 in. This is the trophy right here.
Harley Davidson Earl.
And here's a sign talking about him and a boy giving him a penny. Must be something about these pennies.
He came 20 years directly after Dale Earnhardt's win.
That's a neat story.
So this car you see behind us here in this display is Austin Dillon's winning Coca-Cola 600 car. What's unique around this is you see some of the areas of NASCAR, whether it's tires, management, but also comes that important piece of saving fuel. Austin won the race by stretching his gas tank as further than anyone else and crossing in line first. Even though the Coca-Cola 600 is normally ran on Memorial Day weekend, and you see a lot of American paint schemes that come out, this distressed wood American flag is very cool and unique. Another thing that NASCAR does is you can see on the windshield, they honor service members that have lost their lives or are currently actively deployed to honor them for their service to the country.
This right here is the trophy from the Coca-Cola 600, dated May the 28th, 2017. Right here is the 50th anniversary car of RCR from 1969 to 2019.
This truck here, actually Austin won the return to dirt at Eldora Speedway. So this was the first NASCAR race that had been held on dirt for over quite a few years, probably close to 40 years before it came back. Interesting story on this truck here. This truck is not entered as a Richard Childress truck. This is actually the official entry blank goes as a Ryan Sieg Racing truck, as they use their points to grab at least a provisional if needed to enter the truck. Austin would go on to win, which would give Ryan Sieg Racing its first win as a owner in a truck that was prepared for RCR. What you see here is Austin Dillon's Xfinity Championship car. What is something unique about this is, and we'll show you in just a little bit, Austin Dillon has made his way through the ranks. And in this, his first stop was the Truck Series, winning the championship there, graduating and elevating himself into the Nationwide Series, which is now known as the Xfinity Series, winning the championship there. And the rest of his career now is elevated to the Sprint Cup Series, where he will be trying to win a championship there. To this point, no one has been able to win the Truck, Xfinity, and Cup climbing the ladder. This is Austin's championship truck here, which is very rare that he's got an Xfinity and a truck. There have been other drivers that have won the championship in all three through series, but they were dipping down in lower series when they done it. Austin is the first to successfully climb the ladder to win the truck, Xfinity, and now hopes to add a Cup Series title to his resume. Of course, Austin's had a lot of success, but his younger brother Ty also has success capturing an ARCA Series title. You can see his car here in his 2011 championship, which is pretty cool because he wins the ARCA Championship 2011 and his older brother Ty wins the Truck Championship in 2011. So the Dillon household and Richard Childress had a lot to celebrate in 2011 with both grandsons bringing home a championship.
You know, Richard was one proud grandpa.
Another interesting fact is, as you can see the tire here, it looks flat. But a lot of times they start them off down low on air pressure because as the run goes, they build up heat and that tire will gain pressure as it goes. So for the car to handle all the way through, they've got to start them lower than they want. Normally it takes around a lap or two to get it fully into the PSI range that they want to start the run at. But these tires will be fully inflated with just in a couple laps. In 1995, NASCAR introduced the Truck Series. And this piece here, you see the black 3 in the Goodwrench truck here. Mike Skinner was the driver of this. Mike went on to have a lot of success in the number 3 truck. And he eventually elevated into the 31 Lowe's team for Richard Childress Racing at the Cup level. But one of the things is Kevin Harvick was in RCR's Xfinity or Busch Series at the time, series before he was elevated to replace Dale Earnhardt. This here is his championship winning car in 2001, which he drove at Rockingham Speedway to capture that championship. You can also see that this car here has the number 3 to celebrate the life of Dale and to carry on his tradition here is that Dale always rides with an RCR car.
All right, folks, it's time for us to cross this finish line.
Peace out.
Good day.
You can get a souvenir to take home with you from this penny machine. The 7-time champion, number 3, Richard Childress Racing.
Well, we're at that point in time throughout the whole tour of the museum here where everybody wants to be, Victory Lane. But that also means we're at the end of our journey here. I hope you've enjoyed it and hope that we've dropped a little bit of knowledge about the history and the life and legacy of Dale Earnhardt, but the history that's here at the Richard Childress Museum.
Yeah, hope you enjoyed.
Mark, I really enjoyed having you with me today. It was very informative. You told me a lot of facts. I was a huge Dale Earnhardt fan. Some things you told me that I didn't even know. And just to see everything here that they have on display for people to come and enjoy, it was a very good time for me. I enjoyed it. If you're a Dale Earnhardt fan or just a NASCAR fan, I think you would really enjoy coming here seeing everything firsthand. They have a lot of the cars that Dale ran, especially the 1998 Daytona 500 car that he won his one and only Daytona 500 in. He came close so many times, but he always would have something happen, from a tire blowing to hitting a seagull, and the list just continued to go on and on. But he finally did it. And all the other cars they have on display here from the other drivers that drive for Richard Childress, it's just amazing to see how much success Richard has had in NASCAR racing. Well, folks, we hope that y'all enjoyed this video again. And thank you for being here today, Mark, and thanks for the history lesson. Thank you for coming along too, Ace. We enjoyed it. And folks, y'all make sure to like this video, hit that subscribe button, ring that notification bell. That way y'all can keep up with all the latest and greatest adventures from the Virginia Funseekers. Until next time, folks, thank y'all for watching and God bless. Bye, everyone.